I was the contracted cleaner for the last 2 cars on the last commuter train, the glamorous job nobody wants. I clocked in 11:40 p.m., grabbed my trash cart, my keys, and the little bottle of disinfectant that smells like fake lemons, and I planned to strip seats, bag garbage, and be out before the overnight crew locked the yard gates. I expected drunk leftovers and sticky floors, not a story. That job lives in the cracks of the schedule. You work after the crowds disappear and before the yard decides it's done with you. The train rolled into the end-of-line station, almost empty. I waited for the final doors to cycle, watched the last riders shuffle off, and listened for that moment the platform stops being public. Announcements cut out, footsteps fade, and the whole place feels like it's holding its breath. I stepped in and started from the back like always, because routines keep you from thinking. The yard was awake behind the station. Metal clanks, low motors, a distant horn, but inside the cars it was padded quiet. First car, a scarf left on a seat, a couple crushed cans, and a puddle of soda that had seeped into the rubber grooves. I swore, dropped to a knee, shoved paper towels under the seats, sprayed the lemon crap until my eyes stung, and scrubbed fast. Second car, quiet again. A folded newspaper, a greasy smear on the window, gum mashed under an armrest like someone wanted it to live there forever. Normal mess. I kept my keyring clipped to my belt like always. I'm obsessive about it. Those keys are my whole shift. Closets, panels, gates, and the little locked doors that keep regular people out of places they shouldn't be. Third car, one guy. Not slumped, not asleep, just sitting dead still, hood up, hands in his lap. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't staring out the window. He kept his eyes on the door between cars like he was waiting for it to open. The car was empty otherwise, and he'd picked a seat where he could see the aisle, the doorway, and me the second I stepped in. It didn't feel like he missed his stop. It felt like he chose to be there at the end of the line. I did the polite thing and told him the train was out of service. No answer. I said it again, louder, and he tilted his head like I'd spoken wrong. My skin went tight. I keyed my radio and called the yard supervisor, trying to sound casual so I wouldn't set the guy off. The radio crackled and cut, like it loved making things worse. I repeated myself. Passengers still on board in third car. The supervisor answered with an annoyed sigh and told me to handle it until he could get over there. That's when the guy finally moved. Slow, careful. He stood in the aisle and I saw there was no backpack, no jacket, no bag on the floor. Nothing. Everybody has something. Even the people who look like they have nothing have a bag, a bottle, a hat, a receipt. He had nothing like he hadn't arrived, like he'd been placed there. He started walking toward me like he had all night. I backed up into the corner by the folding seats and shoved my cart between us, trash bags rustling, wheels squeaking. I kept one hand near the door button and one on the cart handle, like that would matter. He stopped right at the cart. He didn't look at my face. He tapped the handle once, just a single knock, like he was checking how solid it was. Then he reached under the top trash bag and pulled out my keyring. My stomach dropped so hard I almost laughed, which is embarrassing as hell to admit. I didn't lose those keys. I didn't set them down. I hadn't even unhooked the clip. The only way he had them was if he took them off me while I was in the other car, and I never felt a thing. No tag, no hingle, nothing. I replayed the last 10 minutes in my head and couldn't find the moment. I bent down for the scarf. I kneeled for the soda. My hip brushed the seat back. That's it. That's all it takes if someone's good at it. He held the keys up and stared at the colored tags like he was reading a map. Those tags are dumb little plastic, but if you know the system, they tell you exactly what doors you can touch. I saw his eyes track over them like he understood, and my brain jumped from creepy to dangerous. Then he smiled, small and calm, and said, "You open doors for a living." That was the only sentence he gave me all night. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for them back. I yanked the emergency intercom, and the car lit up with that ugly alarm tone. I slammed my shoulder into the door button because my fingers were shaking, and for a second, nothing happened. Just that stupid pause while the system decided if it wanted to listen to me. In that pause, he just stood there holding my keys, not rushing, not flinching like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. The doors finally popped with a hiss. I shoved my cart out onto the platform, nearly dumped it, and ran. On the platform, I kept my radio down by my mouth, breathing into it, telling the supervisor to get his ass up here now. The station felt too clean, too bright, too empty. The fluorescent lights made everything look flat and mean. I glanced back at the open doors and saw only the car interior and rows of seats. No guy, no movement, just quiet again like it had all happened inside my head. That scared me more than if he'd chased me, because it meant he could move without being seen. The supervisor showed up 2 minutes later with 2 transit cops. He came in annoyed first, like I'd dragged him away from something important, and I hated him for that. The cops asked questions fast. Unsettling fast. The supervisor kept trying to talk over me, trying to turn it into some weird passenger, and me being dramatic, and then he hit me with a line that made my jaw clench. "You probably dropped your keys." I snapped at him. He snapped back. It turned into this ugly workplace fight right there under the lights, and I could feel myself getting painted as the problem because I raised my voice. The cops went through the cars anyway. They checked under seats, opened the bathrooms, shined lights into every corner, walked the length of the consist like they expected him to pop up any second. Nothing. Then one of them crouched by the doorway between cars and picked up my keys. They weren't tossed. They weren't kicked under a seat. They were placed on the floor, neat and centered, tags facing up like an offering. Like he wanted me to know he could take them, hold them, read them, and return them whenever he felt like it. I snatched them back and immediately counted them like a lunatic, touching each one, checking the tags, trying to convince myself nothing had changed. The cop asked if any were missing. I said no. Then my brain did another lap, and I realized missing isn't the point. A photo is enough. A minute is enough. I kept waiting for one of the cops to say the obvious, that this was theft at minimum, that they should lock the consist down and call city police. Instead, they treated it like a nuisance call. One cop asked if the guy touched me. I said no, not that I felt. He nodded like that settled something. They did another sweep with the supervisor bitching about overtime and the yard schedule, like the real emergency was a late move order. They checked the vestibules, the little maintenance cabinets, the space behind the operator cab door they're allowed to peek into. I watched their flashlights rake over empty seats, and I could feel the guy somewhere outside that cone of light, laughing at how clean it all looked. When they came up empty again, the supervisor turned to me and said I was holding up the yard and I'd be written up if I didn't get back on and finish. I told him to write whatever the fuck he wanted because I wasn't stepping back into that car. It didn't find him. Not in the cars. Not on the platform. The camera review was useless. Bad angles, dead zones, grainy footage that showed me pushing my cart, and then a blur that could have been anybody. The supervisor took that as proof I was full of shit. He told me to finish cleaning because the train still had to move to maintenance before morning. I told him to go fuck himself. I left my cart where it sat and walked off the platform with my hands shaking and my keys digging into my palm. In my car, I checked the back seat twice before I even turned the ignition. I drove home with the radio off because every sound felt like someone breathing behind me. When I got to my apartment, I locked the deadbolt, locked the chain, then stood there staring at my own door like it didn't belong to me. I couldn't stop looking at the keyring. I kept seeing his fingers under the trash bag like he'd been in my pockets. I slept maybe an hour and woke up angry, embarrassed, and still scared, which is a shitty combo. I quit the next morning. People laugh like I'd gotten spooked by a homeless guy. Maybe, but I keep thinking about how he got my keys without a sound, and how he chose to give them back only after he proved he could have kept them. That wasn't random. That was practice. I was the one in the cab because my partner called out and dispatch didn't give a shit. Night freight, same dead stretch, same timetable, same keep it moving pressure. I packed my coffee, my radio, my battered logbook, and I planned to do one boring run, swap crews at the yard, then drive home before sunrise. I expected nothing except signals and darkness and that low hum that turns your skull into a drum. That run is all muscle memory. You climb up, wipe the frost off the step, check the handbrake, test the horn, reset the alerter, and stare at the track like it's the only thing that matters in your life, because for the next few hours it is. The cab was stale and hot at the same time, heater fighting the cracked window, diesel stink baked into the seat. I had a brand new cup of gas station coffee, and that smug little thought that tonight would be easy money. We were heavy, but the grade was gentle, signals were spaced right, and nothing in my gut warned me. The first warning was the radio. A quick burst of static, then a voice stepping over another voice like they were arguing in the same room. Dispatch told me the next crossing was clear. The signal ahead stayed green. I kept speed because that's what they train into you. Don't brake hard unless you have to. You'll string line the whole train. Then my headlight picked up a shape on the rails. Not a deer, not a tire. A person, dead center, facing the engine like they'd been waiting for it. I hit the horn until my hand cramped. I threw the brake anyway. Steel screamed. The cars behind us slammed like fists. He didn't move. He just raised one arm like he was calling me over. People love to talk like there's a choice in that moment. There isn't. You're hauling a long chain of weight, and even with an emergency application, you're still sliding forward like your own momentum is laughing at you. I watched him get bigger in the beam, and my brain tried to turn him into anything else. My throat locked. I remember thinking, "Move, you stupid motherfucker, move," and hating myself for thinking it because it sounded like blame, like I was already filing him away into a category that made it easier. But he stayed planted. No stumble, no fling, no panic. Just that arm up, steady like he'd rehearsed it. Impact isn't a bang. It's a sick shudder that crawls through your feet. It travels up the control stand, up your shins, into your teeth. The horn kept blaring because my hand was frozen on it and I couldn't even let go right away. When we finally stopped, we'd rolled so far I couldn't see the spot anymore. My hand shook so bad I dropped my flashlight twice. The other crewman kept repeating "fuck" like a prayer. We secured the locomotive, grabbed vests, grabbed the radio, and climbed down into the dark like two idiots walking into a crime scene we caused but never wanted. The ballast chewed at our boots. The night was quiet except for air hissing and the pinging of metal cooling. We walked back along the right-of-way and found his shoe first. A single-work shoe, laces still tied, sitting upright on the rock like somebody placed it there. That's the detail that keeps stabbing me, not the gore. The neatness. The calm. A few yards after that, the light caught things I still don't have clean words for. Fabric. A wallet that was split open like a peeled fruit. Meat. Bone. I kept my flashlight moving because if I stopped it in one place too long, my brain would lock the image in forever. I called it in. I gave the milepost. I said the words they like: trespasser strike, possible fatality, train secure. Dispatch answered too fast, too smooth, like the whole thing was a box they'd checked 1,000 times. They told us to stay put, don't touch anything, law enforcement en route. Then they asked about speed before they asked about the person. That pissed me off in this hot, useless way, like my anger could rewind physics. The signal had been green. The crossing equipment had been working. The rails were clear until they weren't, and the only thing I could see in my head was that arm lifting like a signal of its own. Cops showed up, then the railroad's people, and the railroad's people showed up first in spirit, even when they weren't there yet. They always do. A company rep rolled in with clean boots and a clipboard before the second cruiser even finished turning around. He didn't look at the tracks. He didn't look at what was left of the man. He looked at me and the cab and the recorder like we were the scene. He started talking about getting my statement down while it's fresh and protecting everyone involved. He tried to hand me a pen while my hands were still shaking. I told him I wasn't signing shit until my union rep was there. I didn't say it politely. He did that little tight smile and said, real calm, that refusing to cooperate could complicate my return to service. That's when the conductor finally snapped and told him to back the fuck off. The rep didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He just let the threat sit in the air. Cops asked me the usual questions: breath test, eyes, did I drink, did I take anything, did I use my phone? I handed over my phone just to shut down the suggestion. I kept waiting for someone to treat it like a human death instead of a workplace incident. But everything turned into check boxes. They took photos. They measured. They told us to sit on the engine and not talk to anyone. The rep kept circling like a vulture, calling people, glancing up at the cab recorder like it was going to confess. Morning didn't help. Daylight just made the whole thing look more ordinary, like the rails were innocent and we were the crazy ones. The coroner's van drove away. The crew got cut loose. I went home, sat in my driveway, and realized my hand was still vibrating on the steering while like the engine was still under me. I showered and kept hearing the horn in the water, that long, angry blast, and every time it faded, my brain brought it back. I slept for 20 minutes at a time and woke up with my jaw locked and my shirt stuck to my back. Then the paper trail started doing that slow, sick magic trick where reality disappears. Dispatch swore they never said clear. My radio log had a gap, right where the call should have been. The audio from the cab recorder came back corrupted. The company acted like this was normal, like recorders just go blind when it's inconvenient. They told me the call must have been interference or another channel bleeding through. I said, "No. I heard you tell me clear," and they looked at me like I was already becoming the problem. They photocopied my logbook, and somehow my handwritten note about the crossing time didn't show up on their copy the way it did on mine. They shrugged like ink just does that. They yanked me out of service for retraining like I was some rookie who didn't know what an emergency application does. They sat me in a classroom with a guy half my age clicking through slides about situational awareness. I kept seeing that arm in my peripheral vision, not in the slides, in the room. Like if I turned my head fast enough, I'd catch him standing there again. I asked for the radio archive. I asked for the dispatcher's console logs. I asked why my own handwritten time in my logbook didn't match their gap. I got smiles and delays, and the same answer dressed up different. Technical issue, can't retrieve, not available, nothing we can do. Meanwhile, bills didn't pause. My wife heard me grinding my teeth at night and asked what was wrong, and I just stared at the ceiling because I couldn't say it without putting him back on the rails. The conductor texted once to check on me, and I couldn't even answer because I didn't want to trade nightmares like baseball cards. The company rep called twice and left voicemail like he was doing me a favor, reminding me cooperation would speed things along. I started jumping at green traffic lights like they were telling me to go faster into something I couldn't stop. A week later, they called me into an office and tried again with the same form, just tweaked. Same idea. Making my error, close the file, keep the lawyers happy. The rep leaned in like we were buddies and said signing it would help everyone move forward. I told him I wasn't moving forward with a lie stapled to my name. He dropped the buddy act for a second and said, flat, that accidents like this follow engineers. That some guys don't get back on the road. That's the other hit people don't see. Not the impact, the squeeze after, when they try to teach you that the truth costs more than your paycheck. I didn't sign. I still got pulled off runs. I still hear that horn in my sleep. And I still see the way he lifted his arm, like he knew the system would erase him twice. Once under the wheels, once in the report. I wasn't a worker, I was the idiot with a camera and a day off. I drove out to a half-dead rail spur because I shoot industrial decay for a tiny channel and the old tunnel looked good on maps. I packed a headlamp, spare batteries, a small tripod, and I planned a quick in and out, film the entrance, walk maybe 100 yards, grab some shots of graffiti, leave before it got too late. I expected rats, broken glass, and that stale concrete smell. I parked where the brush hid my car from the road. No other vehicles, no fresh tracks, just a sagging chain link gate with a "No trespassing" sign bleached to near white. I told myself everybody ignores those and nobody cares about a dead spur. I still felt my pulse in my throat as I walked, because trespassing always feels different when you're alone and you can't hear traffic. I clip my camera strap, check my pockets like a nervous dad, keys, knife, phone, and follow the rails in. The ties felt soft in places, the wood punky, and I kept my weight centered so nothing rolled under me. The tunnel swallowed light fast. My beam hit slick stone, old cable brackets, and rails that looked like they hadn't felt a wheel in years. There was graffiti, but it was older, faded under a gray film, like the tunnel had been breathing dust for decades. The air went colder after 20 yards, the kind of cold that doesn't feel like weather, more like a fridge door left cracked. My phone lost signal almost immediately. I kept filming anyway, and I caught myself doing that fake calm narration people do when they're trying not to admit they're scared. I walked slow, watched my footing, kept the tripod folded in my hand like a club. Every sound felt bigger than it should have. My boots scuffed, and it echoed like a shout. My jacket brushed the wall, and it sounded like someone whispering. I told myself the tunnel was just a big concrete instrument, nothing more. I told myself that until it stopped feeling like an instrument and started feeling like an audience. About 5 minutes in, I heard a metallic tick behind me. Not a drip, not a rock settling. A clean, repeated click like a boot heel kissing rail. I stopped on instinct. The sound stopped with me, like it had manners. I took one step. It clicked again. I took 3 steps. Click. The click wasn't smeared by distance, wasn't muffled, wasn't random. It sat sharp and close, like it was right over my shoulder. I tried to laugh at it. I tried to name it Echo, loose bracket, my own gear. None of it fit. I walked again, slower, and it followed, always 3 beats behind my steps, like someone matching me on purpose. Step, 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 click. Step, 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 click. I stopped and swung my headlamp back down the tunnel, expecting to catch a trespasser, a dumb kid, a squatter, anything with a face. The light hit empty rails and darkness. No shuffle, no cough, no movement, just the tunnel staring back. Then my beam caught a little line of objects set on the ballast beside the rail. Not trash, not random junk. Placed. A torn work glove, a snap flashlight with the lens busted, a wallet turned inside out like someone had checked it and left it open. There were spaced like markers, like somebody wanted you to notice them in order. My stomach tightened because it didn't feel like found junk, it felt like a message. I crouched and picked up the wallet. It was cold in my hand, heavier than it should have been for something empty, and it smelled faintly of old leather and metal. No cash, no cards, just a photo tucked into the plastic sleeve. A kid in a paper conductor hat, smiling like it was a joke. The kind of souvenir picture you get at a museum railcar. The kid's eyes were bright, like he thought trains were magic. I stared at it longer than I should have, because my brain kept snagging on the idea that someone carried it in here on purpose, and then left it like bait. My headlamp flickered. Not a gentle dim, not a battery warning. A hard blink like someone flipped a switch. The tunnel went wrong quiet. Even my breathing sounded too loud, like it didn't belong here. I checked the battery pack, twisted it, pressed it like I could bully it into staying on. The light steadied for a second, and then, right near my ear, a voice whispered my first name. Soft, close, confident. I didn't say my name out loud in the tunnel. I hadn't even been doing my usual intro. My channel doesn't use it. My username isn't it. I sure as hell didn't tell the dark. My stomach dropped so hard I fell in my knees. My skin prickled under my jacket like cold needles. I tried to swing the camera around, but my arms felt delayed, like my body was running on bad signal too. The clicking behind me started again, closer now, still keeping that 3-beat gap like it had rules. For half a second I got angry. This stupid flash of fuck you, don't say my name, and then the anger collapsed into pure animal fear. I didn't debate. I didn't investigate for content. I ran. Running on rail ties is a good way to eat shit, and I did. My boot caught an edge, my weight went sideways, and I slammed down on the rail. Pain shot through my palm as it split open. The camera banged off the ground, and my tripod clattered behind me. I tasted copper and dirt. I came up swearing, blood slicking my grip, and kept running anyway because fear makes you stupid fast. The clicking turned into a steady clatter like someone sprinting on iron, not echoing me, chasing me. The gap shrank. I could hear it landing where I wasn't, like it was choosing to rail on purpose, like it wanted that clean metal sound. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I just aimed for the faint gray smear of daylight ahead and hammered toward it, lungs burning, mouth open, mind blank except for one ugly thought. It knows me. My headlamp flickered again, harder, and for half a second it went out. I ran blind, hands out, scraping the wall, catching my sleeve on a bracket and tearing fabric. The light came back and the tunnel mouth jumped closer, like I'd been shoved forward. My boot felt wrong, heavy like something had tried to hook it, and I almost stopped to check, and then the clatter behind me surged and I didn't stop for anything. I just threw myself at the exit. I burst out into open air and nearly fell to my knees on the gravel shoulder. Sun hit my eyes like a slap. I spun anyway, shaking so bad my teeth clicked, and aimed the camera into the tunnel mouth, ready to prove I wasn't losing my mind. The footage showed the tunnel, my shaky light, and nothing else. No person, no shadow, no movement, just black and empty rails. I stood there with blood running down my wrist, staring into it, waiting for something to step out so I could hate it properly. Nothing did. The tunnel just sat there like it had never made a sound in its life. I limped back to my car, got inside, and locked the doors like that meant anything. My phone still had no service for another minute, and that minute felt like a dare. When the bars finally came back, I stared at the screen and realized I didn't want to call anyone. If I called a friend, they'd joke. If I called the cops, I'd have to admit I was trespassing and I'd sound insane. So I drove, one-handed, my other hand wrapped in a ruined sleeve, eyes flicking to the rear view every few seconds like I expected something to be sitting up in my back seat. At home, I washed my palm in the sink and watched the water turn pink, then clear, then pink again. I wrapped it, taped it, and threw the bloody paper towels in a grocery bag like they were evidence. I pulled the footage onto my laptop because I needed to know if I'd made it up. Video was useless. Just me, my light, the tunnel. But the audio caught it. 3 clean clicks, a soft inhale, and my name again, closer than my own breathing. I put on headphones, and it sat in my left ear like someone leaned in and smiled while they said it. I tried to talk myself out of it. I told myself it was my mic picking up my own breath, my own mutter, some weird artifact. I zoomed in on the audio waveform like that would save me. I filmed myself in my hallway whispering my own name to see if it matched. It didn't. Mine sounds like a guy trying to be quiet. That one sounded like it belonged there. I don't go back. I don't film tunnels. I tossed the headlamp in the trash, then drove the bag to a dumpster across town because I didn't want it in my building. I deleted the raw clip off my drive and then dug it out of recovery like an idiot because part of me needed the proof, even if the proof made me sick. The glove and the snap flashlight and that stupid kid's conductor photo keep popping into my head at random moments, like the tunnel left them in me. And every time a train passes near my apartment now, I find myself counting the beats between the wheels, waiting for that extra set of steps that shouldn't be there.